There we go. Give you a little tip. When you're running an image like a flower that's going to go off the edge like that, I think it's really nice to leave at least half of the center part on there. In other words, you're going to have more than half of that image on there. I think that is a little more pleasing to the eye than it might otherwise be. All right, here we go. We got our last color, Pool Party, here. I want to make sure that we've got, I just stuck my finger in the ink. All right, now you know I'm a real stamper. I can do it too. Stick my finger in the ink just like you can. Okay, and this one I want to go off the edge, but I don't want to go off the edge very much. And the reason for that is, I think you'll see a little bit later. If I go too far off the edge, it's going to start impacting how well this card fits into the envelope. So I just want to just touch the tips to the edge a little bit like that. All right, so there's our all over pattern. There's our greeting, and we could call this card done at this point. Did you see how fast that went together? It would not take any extra postage whatsoever because it's flat, and so it would fit in the envelope very nicely. Your little message on the back, and it's ready to go. Now, let's embellish it a little bit. I'm going to take my leftover scrap of white cardstock and stamp. Actually, I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to stamp this image in Pool Party onto here. Remember I told you I'd give you a tip about this punch. Oftentimes, Stampin' Up's images, whether they're punches or Big Shot dies or whatever, they're not symmetrical. Now, the good thing about that, it's got pros and cons. The good thing is it looks nicer. It's more aesthetically appealing to the eye. The flip side of that is that it makes it a little bit more challenge to get your paper in here to line up with those petals exactly right. So what I like to do is I generally will stare when I get one of these new punch, image combo things and see that this is going to be a challenge for me. I'll stamp this and then I'll sit and stare at it and I'll say, okay, there's probably some telltale something about one of these petals that I'll be able to figure out. And sure enough, I noticed this one goes up, the shape of it. Let me trace it for you. It goes up, it dips down, it goes up, and it comes back in. This one goes up, dips down, around, and comes back in. So does this one, and so does this one. This one, on the other hand, I noticed, comes up, around, dips in, comes back up, and takes a tiny little dip in again. This one's got a second dip right here. It's the only one of the 5 that has a secondary dip. Aha! So what I did is I looked on here to find out which petal has a secondary dip. And I found it right here. So I marked it. See that little black mark right there? I marked it with a Sharpie, so it's hopefully permanent or fairly permanent. And now when I insert this stamped image, I can take my paper and put it in knowing that the one with the secondary dip goes right there. And that's going to save me a mountain of time, overtime, to get this aligned. I don't have to try it 5 different ways per punch. Okay, so it's going to line up fairly quickly like that. And there we are. So now in order to curl the edges a little bit, I'm just going to use my bone folder, curl them up just a little bit so it's got a little bit of more natural look to it. And I'm going to take the Boho Blossoms punch and punch out this particular one. Oh, I've got all kinds of scrap stuff showing up already. Now, this one, I just wanted to share with you, most of you know this already. This was our older style body in favor of this one. So if you were to order Boho Blossoms punch nowadays, you would get it in this body style. which is actually a much nicer body style. But I happen to have a lot of the older ones, and so the finished product looks exactly the same. It's just that the particular tool looks a little different. What I'm going to do now is lay it on the piercing pad and take the wide end of the white gel pen, and I'm going to press down in here. Now you can also do that if your hands are fairly tough, and I'm fairly fortunate because mine are. They got a lot of fat padding on there still. You can do it in the palm of your hand, but if that hurts, then use your piercing pad. Again, that's in the Stampin' Up! Catalog. And I'm going to take a mini glue dot and adhere that right in the middle. Now a pearl. Now pearls don't come in nice boxes like this. This is actually one of our stamp storage boxes. This is the DVD size for the clear mount ones. And we do sell them empty in sets, I believe, of 4. And I'm a real collector of those because I like to put my doodads in them. And in this particular case, and in several others, I have actually I've designed and printed a cover with My Digital Studio, which is our digital design software, so that I have a cover on each of these. I've actually made several of them for different accessories and so forth, and then they stack up just really nice, and I keep them here at my fingertips so that I can find what I'm looking for. If only I could read quickly as well as talk at the same time. All right, now I'm looking for a Stampin' Dimensional, and I'll take one of these. I'll place this right here, take the little cover off of it, and figure out which way do I want to turn this so that it matches with the petals underneath. I think that's pretty close, so we're just going to put that like so. And there's our finished card. So that's our embellished version, and you saw the plain Jane, but less expensive to mail. If you have a whole bunch of them to do, you might want to do those. But here's our embellished, fancied up version. All done. Now we just need one more thing, and that is an envelope, of course. Stampin' Up's envelopes are really, really nice. They're this wonderful smooth surface for writing on, like our Whisper White cardstock. But isn't it nice to put a liner in here? Well, when I have lined envelopes in the past, it's been kind of a complex process of taking my cardstock and, my decorative paper, and I lay this down, and with a pencil I trace around it here, and I cut it all out with a pair of scissors, and it's like a big hoop-de-doo, but I do once in a while like to do that. Well, in our holiday catalog, I about flipped, and I'm a little too old to do cartwheels, but I almost did them anyway, when I saw envelope liners dies. So guess what was the first thing on my list when I was able to pre-order? This larger size is the size that you will use when you want to do a liner for what Stampin' Up! Calls a medium-size envelope. Now the medium-size envelope, which we sell, is the size that a regular 5.5 by 4.25 size card will fit into. So what I did is I took a 6x6 piece of designer series paper, laid this on it, of course sandwiched, so I had the paper and the framelit here sandwiched between the 2 acrylic plates and up on top of the magnetic plate, and passed that through, and this is what I got. So you can see how this fits right in here. Well, if I could take the time to get it aligned. There you go. So see how that piece now fits right down inside here. And the only place I put any adhesive is on the back side of just right there. Because once this is tucked inside the envelope, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't need to be adhered. So just anchor your flap, and that's all you need to do. So that's very quick. Fold it down, and you've got your coordinated presentation here. Isn't that lovely?